Friends, I got something very exciting to share with you today because after a year of using vintage lenses, I finally found the one I was looking for. It checks all of my criteria and I believe it's the best one I've used so far that can help you get closer to the Hollywood movie look without spending thousands of dollars on a cinema lens. Let me introduce you to my favorite vintage lens, Canon FD 55mm F1.2 Chrome Nose, and in this video I'm gonna show you what makes this lens so special. But before we begin, I wanna ask you to support this channel by pressing like, leaving any comment, and subscribing to the channel. I would love to have you here and it inspires me to create more content. You can also find me on Instagram. Lenses are the eyes of the camera, and lens choice is very important in filmmaking because they can help you achieve certain looks. And that's exactly the reason why I started using vintage lenses, because most of them are affordable and different brands make different lenses with unique characters and look. Plus, they are great alternatives to budget cinema lenses that I wanted to try for a long time and almost purchased one, but then I realized it's too easy. So I decided to challenge myself to get as close to the cinema look as I can with the 50-year-old vintage lens that I own. But it's not just a vintage lens, it's a first generation Canon FD 55mm F1.2, which should be optically close to the famous Canon K35 cinema lenses that were also produced in the 70s. Since the moment I found out about this 55mm F1.2, I was so intrigued by it, and one day I saw the listing on eBay with an amazing price. But of course there was a catch. The description stated that the focus ring is a bit stiff. Well, I thought, I want to give it a try. Worst case scenario, I'll use it as a prop for the future content, but the lens turned out to be in good working condition. Yes, the focus is a bit stiff, but nothing too bad, and it's not a problem to me because the glass is clean, and that's the most important to me. So after spending some time with this camera, using it with my Fujifilm X-H2S, I want to share the results and share my thoughts about it. The clips you're about to see were filmed in F-Log, then converted to Rec 709 with minimal color and exposure adjustments. Of course, you could take the grading much further, but I wanted to show you what you can get pretty much out of the camera. Enjoy. My camera setup is simple and minimalistic. It's easy to carry around and you can set it up fast to start filming. Camera, lens, monitor, step-up rings, and ND filter. That's it. As an adapter, I'm using Lens Turbo 2 focal reducer because my Fujifilm has a crop sensor, but if your camera is full frame, you just need a standard adapter. In the beginning of this video, I mentioned that this lens checked all of my criteria, so I want to provide more details explaining them. Canon FD 55mm f1.2 is bigger and heavier compared to all of the prime vintage lenses I've seen and used. And for me it's great because vintage lenses in general were made for compact photo film cameras. And then when you use them with modern mirrorless or cinema cameras, add monitors and other accessories, especially for pulling focus, it's not that comfortable. But again, it's my experience. With this lens, it's been much easier and comfortable for me so far. Having the aperture of f1.2 for the lens that was made 50 years ago is impressive. Wide open at 1.2, the image is soft and is challenging to pull focus, but you can get some unique shots for your project and make the story look more interesting. At f2, the image sharpens and more usable for different scenarios. At f2.8 and f4, there is much improvement, more sharpness, obviously, much easier to pull focus. Speaking of sharpness and contrast, I compared this old lens to my Fujifilm 16 to 55 f2.8 and was very surprised just how good this Canon FD performs alongside a professional modern lens, especially when I took them to Santa Monica in the middle of the summer where the weather was wild. It felt like the storm was coming. It was cold, windy, and foggy, but the results turned out to be pretty good. When it comes to the color, this lens is on the cooler side, leaning towards the blue, which is perfectly fine and can be corrected in post if needed. The image this lens produces looks absolutely stunning to me, having this pleasing creamy look with beautiful bokeh. It has enough contrast and I think almost perfect amount of sharpness, kind of close to the professional cinema lenses, which is why I mentioned it should be optically close to the famous Canon K39, which are crazy expensive right now, and that's the reason why Canon FDs are being rehoused for the professional use. The build quality is great, very solid and heavy, comfortable to use. The only issue I have with this lens is that I regret not spending more money on buying this lens in perfect condition, which I should have done. But I might be looking for another one or save some money for the future and get it rehoused, which would be mind-blowing. Overall, I had a great experience with this lens and can highly recommend it, as well as other great vintage lenses I've used, and you can find my reviews about them in the description. To whom I would recommend this lens, and why even use vintage lenses? Well, let's answer that question. First of all, this lens and other vintage lenses can be extremely beneficial to filmmakers who want to add more character and unique look to their work. There are so many options to choose from, and you can easily build a set of 3 or 4 lenses for around $1,000, which is the price of a budget cinema lens like DZO Vespid or Nisi Athenas, which are great and I would love to test them out in the future. But if you're in a budget, vintage lens is your best option when it comes to price and image quality. Plus, a lot of vintage lenses are being rehoused right now and used in movies alongside professional cinema lenses. Movie Dune Part 2 is a great example of this. Canon FD 55mm F1.2 Chrome Nose is a great lens that was made for old film photo cameras, and now we can use it with our modern cameras, getting amazing results. This lens surprised me in a very good way, and I wanted to share it with you. Well, friends, it's all I have for today. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to press like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel, and you can also find me on Instagram. It's been a pleasure, and I will see you next time.